Thank you. So I'm Bernard Carr, and I have the honor to be the president of the Scientific and Medical Network, which is a role I took over recently from Peter Fenwick. Peter, I should stress, is still the emeritus president. Well, this afternoon's session is on the theme of science and spirituality, and I'm very happy to be chairing it because I know two of the contributors very well indeed. They're old friends, and the other contributor I've only just met, but that's also very exciting. And so I'll go straight off by introducing Professor Les Lancaster, who's giving the first rather short presentation. Les has been a friend of mine for some 45 years. His expertise encompasses neuroscience and spirituality, so he's obviously very well qualified to speak at a Beyond the Brain meeting. He's the professor of transpersonal psychology at Liverpool John Moores University, but he was a founder and a president of the International Transpersonal Association. He was also one of the founders and a chair of the transpersonal psychology section of the British Psychological Society. He's written many important books, Mind, Brain and Human Potential, and most recently, Approaches to Consciousness, the Marriage of Science and Mysticism, which I've always thought would be a great strapline for the SMN. But one reason he's played a particularly important role in the SMN is because he set up this online course in consciousness, spirituality, and transpersonal psychology, which I believe is now the only accredited MSc in the subject in the UK and one of the few in the world. And as Les may mention, the SMN has quite a close association with that course. We played a small role even in I think in setting it up. Maybe Les will refer to that. And it's proved remarkably successful. I mean, I know when it started off, it had about 10 students a year. It's now got something like 40 students a year. I think the total cohort now is about 100. And I was very privileged just a few months ago to be able to attend the graduation ceremony and for that year's graduates, and it was really a wonderful event, and I'm very grateful that I was invited. I should also say that the other person who plays a crucial role in that course is Jessica Bockler, who is I think she's the program leader. Les is the director. And I hadn't realized she was going to be presenting as well, but a huge welcome to you as well, Jessica. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Les to start off. His talk is entitled The Alef Trust, Embodied Learning for Global Transformation. So over to you, Les.
Thank you so much, Bernard. And it's great to be here again. And just to build a little on Bernard's introduction, it's great to hear about my role and my books and so on, but I'm here specifically talking with Jessica about the Alef Trust, because the reason is that firstly, we are one of the sponsors of this conference. And secondly, as Bernard mentioned, we have a very important partnership with the SMN. And it's on that basis that I want to present something about our founding principles, why we're in partnership with the SMN, and about our operations. Yeah. And very briefly to update from what Bernard said, you mentioned 100 students. I think we're now closer to 200.
Wow.
Yeah. So times change. So founding principles were really in setting up the Alef Trust. We wanted to really focus on two great pillars of what I think is two great pillars of the human spirit, ways of knowing. One is to do with esoteric and wisdom traditions from all over the world, and the second is research and scholarship within science, and especially psychological science in our case. And again, in setting up the Alef Trust, we were very aware that this unification between these two pillars was somewhat lacking. And so we now have our offerings, and I think that we do build on those great bases. So our education is not simply head work, it involves heart work, it involves embodiedness. So our students are really engaging in what I think are very potent learning journeys. So if we have the next slide, and so the next slide indicates the areas in which we have our learning programs. There may be technical problems, so let me just talk in
I
any
think there's a
case.
slight lag in the upload of the slide. Here we go.
The wonders of the internet. So Bernard alluded to the MSc. The crucial point of what we do in bringing together those areas I mentioned is a respect for scholarship. And as I say, for those learning, those esoteric traditions. So we have an MSc, we're in negotiation with a partner, Liverpool John Moores University. Liverpool John Moores University accredits these postgraduate programs in the MSc, and also we're in discussion about a PhD program. We also offer these certificate programs, professional certificates. So for example, you see here, transpersonal coaching psychology, and 2 new programs coming in this year, Grateful Aging, Awakening to Our Third Act, which is really directed to professionals who are working with individuals in their, inverted commas, third act. And it's so important in our day, I think, to work with aging individuals, respecting these values of the spiritual, the consciousness, and the sense of eldering as well. So that's one. And then also responding to recent trends, the huge increase in research to do with psychedelics and this certificate program in connection with transpersonal psychology. We also offer open learning programs, which are ways for which people, any of you, could engage with our learning offerings without necessarily being enrolled at university. It's a way of sort of dipping in and just following your interest. So all that you could find on the website. Before I finish, and this, I'll keep this short, I just want to acknowledge the partnership with the SMN. And since Bernard was the one that introduced us, I think to mention that the idea of having a partnership with the SMN was there right at the beginning. And this is, I mean, I think Bernard would recognize this. I think it was 10 years ago that I started talking to Bernard, who was then the chair of SMN, as you know, now president. And the reason we wanted a partnership was not only that the SMN shares our ethos, which is really, really important, but also because of the incredible work the SMN has done over many years and continues to do in offering these kinds of conferences, because the SMN has a very rich archive in these areas. So that's the foundation of our partnership. I'm going to pass over to my colleague, who's also a founding director of the Alef Trust, Jessica Bockler, and she's really going to talk to us about some of the more community-oriented aspects of our operations.
Thank you very much, Les, and it's a pleasure to be here today. It's great to see so many, and actually recognizing some friends as well. It's lovely to see you. So Les has outlined the educational output of the Alef Trust, and I'm going to just for a few minutes now focus on one of the initiatives that we have started with the help of charitable funding in recent years. And this is the Conscious Community Project. And this is an initiative actually that you might be able to get involved in because it involves research, and we're looking for research participants. So I'm going to expand on that in a moment, and I'm going to introduce the research projects that we're undertaking. The Conscious Community Project really aims to cultivate this community of practice and inquiry for transformation. Our students and alumni are professionals. They're people who are deeply immersed in a variety of applied fields, and they are global. They come from 40 plus countries. And so the aim of the Conscious Community Project is really to resource this community, to enable it to further expand practice and to really inquire into the nature of human development, consciousness, evolution, and looking at change. What facilitates change? How can we all contribute to the betterment of our world? And there's a quote on screen that you see here from Paul Downton, who is an eco-city pioneer. And I really very much like this vision that he puts across. He says, and I quote, "Cultural change can be catalyzed by the creation of cultural fractals that display the essential characteristics of the preferred cultural condition." End of quote. And that is very much what we try to do in the Conscious Community Project. Through our work, through these specific research projects that we have called into being, we're trying to create fractals for cultural change, seeding ideas, new ways of being, new ways of working in a variety of fields: education, medicine, sustainability, and so on, a variety of fields where these projects are unfolding, to seed ideas for change, how we could be and how we could act differently today on this shared planet of ours. So the project has a variety of objectives. I mentioned that it involves research projects, small-scale research projects, really coming together in a research hub, inquiring into the nature of change-making processes. And then we're also developing our online infrastructure to support the dialogue between all members of our community, including you. So this is an ever-expanding network, and we want to invite people to come in and be a part of that. We've recently initiated something that we're calling the Alef field. This is an online digital magazine where our members of the community are posting about their projects and their work. It's also a place where they're sharing practice through videos, audio, musical pieces, creative writing, and so on. We'll share the web link for that, and you're welcome to have a look. And the project is also about very much generating public awareness of this kind of work and public dialogue, so that we're not just talking to ourselves as researchers and practitioners, but we're also reaching out to the wider world. So now, just to round this presentation off, we have some short videos from our project leaders who have just received their first grants and are beginning projects in a variety of countries. I'm going to let them speak for themselves, and I'll briefly introduce each. There's 6 of them, and they've created some very short videos for us today, just to give us a glimpse for what their work is about. This first one here is a project led by Tanya Butelas-Pope, who is based in South Africa.
Hello, my name is Tanya Butelas, and I'm thrilled to be able to introduce to you Project MEND, Stitching Lives Together. This project was born of my personal experience in which slow stitching, which had begun as a hobby, transformed into a daily meditative practice that changed my thinking and my life. Through my studies with Alef Trust, I learned that mine was not a unique experience, and that indeed creativity can facilitate mental health and well-being by creating awareness, allowing time for reflection, accessing the flow state, and contributing to personal growth. I wish to share my passion with a group of disadvantaged women, teaching them to work with textiles through the lens of process art. Using simple, traditional stitching techniques, we will upcycle old cotton fabric and local textiles to create decorative or functional pieces. Emphasis on sharing experiences while working with needle and thread create a tangible way in which a project can be utilized to mend hearts, lives, and our environment, while simultaneously empowering the women to produce not only functional art, but becoming a further source of income for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. And over to the next project, which is in the UK. It's a permaculture project, which is actually happening not too far from where the Alef Trust has its head office on the Wirral in the northwest of the UK. And I'll let Paula Staunton, who's the project leader, speak to us. Bear in mind, she made this video from her home under lockdown conditions. So these are just little glimpses, not professional videos as such, but just really enabling people to speak about their project and give you an idea for what is now unfolding. This is Paula. Oh, something went wrong there. Bear with me. Here we go.
Engaging with the natural environment creates a desire to preserve it. A resacralized approach to nature can create a healing in the individual, the community, and on a global scale. Currently, there is an intensifying mental health epidemic, as well as escalating environmental destruction. Clearly, the social norms we feel are natural and inevitable are not serving people or ecosystems. Working on the land together is humbling and fosters connectivity. We are very grateful to be included in the Alef Trust Conscious Community Project. The award is serendipitous and synchronous to Earth Moves achieving a 25-year lease on a peppercorn rent with Wirral Council, transform a neglected 4 acres of peri-urban land into a permaculture forest garden for community use.
So just a little glimpse there into this permaculture project, which is happening here in the UK. Moving back to South Africa, and here we have a medical practitioner, Dr. Henny Geldenhuis, who is running an integrative health course for us as part of the Conscious Community Project. Again, a short glimpse into his work and way of thinking. There we go.
My name is Henny Geldenhuis. I'm a medical doctor, and there have been countless times in my career that I have yearned for a more holistic way to approach my patients that respects the integration of the body, the mind, and the spirit. My project, the Inner Healing for Outer Health course, is an online course for healthcare practitioners that applies the transpersonal and the psychosomatic to existing professional practice. It is my hope that we will be part of a shifting paradigm for healthcare systems in the modern Western world towards its more authentic healer roots.
Thank you, Hedy. And we also have a project which is tackling social media, looking at developing a new social media platform which will not be replicating the existing exploitative patterns that we're seeing in social media today, but instead building a platform that is kinder, more compassionate, enabling people to connect on deeper levels. And I'll let the two project leaders give you a little glimpse into that, Leela Moore and Owen Fender. I was having a slight problem with the video. There we go.
Hi, I'm Owen Fender.
Hi, I'm Leela Moore.
We are the co-leaders of the Sentient Project. We intend to build a nurturing, creative, shared environment where participants can connect with each other on a deeper level than permitted on existing social media.
Going beyond status updates, photos, and memes, users will be empowered to respond to collective experiences with feelings, sensations, intuitions, and perceptions, which will have an immediate impact on the nature of the experience, enabling a transformation of consciousness.
By using abstract, poetic, and archetypal forms of expression, such as color, sound, text, image, and movement, users will be free to connect with each other holistically from the core of their being to create something new.
They will have an authentic voice that will be heard in an honest environment, free from advertising and manipulative practices. An environment that takes on the form of a living, growing, sentient organism.
And then last but not least, two projects that are exploring integrative approaches to health and well-being. Integrative meaning drawing on the whole person, looking what is needed for one's development on mental, spiritual, physical, emotional levels, really approaching whole person development. And this particular program does so in the UK in the context of a yoga community based in London.
Hi, my name is Laura Harvey Collins. My Consciousness Community Project with the Alef Trust is a integrative yoga program. I've partnered with a local yoga studio to me in Croydon, England, and I'll be delivering the program online to some of the students there. This project was inspired by Wilber's integral theory and also by some of the learning that I've done myself with the Alef Trust. And the intention here is to really help shift the participants' focus so that they can learn how to engage with their yoga practice from a more holistic perspective.
Thank you, Laura. And last but not least, Victor Givanescu, who is based in Romania and equally pursuing an integrative practice project there in his community. The last video.
Hello, I'm Victor Givanescu from Romania, and together with my colleagues from Quantum Civilizations and OmSpace Organic Movement, we're very excited to offer a program of integrative practice for 10 weeks here in Romania via Zoom. I was inspired by Alef Trust's MSc module, Learning Through Integrative Practice, to embark on such a journey myself, and wish to help spread such an endeavor in my local community, in the hope of creating a cultural fractal of inspiration for interested individuals. The project will focus on both theoretical aspects of integral practice, as well as allow participants to discover such practices in an embodied fashion across the physical, mental, emotional, interpersonal, and spiritual modalities. I'm very excited to be part of the Conscious Community project and strongly believe that such initiatives pave the way for a more conscious, holistic, compassionate, and caring community. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Victor, and thank you for your attention and your time. And if you want to find out more, you can certainly have a look on our website, visit the Alef field to find out more and get in touch. Thank you. Les, anything you'd like to add to round this off?
No, I think that covers it well. All those projects you mentioned, I think, perhaps just one thing to add, that all of those projects, a major criterion in selecting them was that they are all plugging into different organizations in the communities they're in. So it's really a kind of snowballing effect to bring these ethics, these principles to a wider strata in society.
Les and Jessica, thank you so much for it was a very short but a very inspiring presentation, and I was especially excited to see the Consciousness Community Project film clips, because it illustrates the work, which in some sense is obviously related to the SMN, I guess, it's down to earth. It's very practical. I mean, I was very impressed by the wide range of activities, which shows that the work with which the SMN likes to be allied is not, it's not just, you know, it's not just spiritual, it's also down to earth. So thank you so much for illustrating that. I should say the one reason the SMN is so pleased to be involved in the MSc course is because we are an educational project, an educational charity, and therefore we are fulfilling our remit in that sense. And it's just wonderful to see how it's now expanded, I gather, not from 100, but to 200 students. And indeed, I bet quite a number of those students are in the audience today. A little point I might make, since Les was referring to the history of the founding of the MSc, I think I'm right in saying, Les, that the idea for the MSc came about when we met at the funeral of David Fontana. Some of you will know that David Fontana was a very important member of the Scientific and Medical Network. And so although it was a sad occasion, it shows how something very positive can come out even out of a sad occasion.
Very true. And just to say, so the MSc had already been running prior to that, but the...
Sorry, yes.
No, but you and I had a conversation at that event. And it was at that conversation we talked about this partnership. Yeah, right. And it's true what you're saying. You know, the passing of David Fontana, I was very involved with him in the British Psychological Society, for example. I know that you had a lot of involvement, and it's a lovely thought, and I think one that he would appreciate, that something new came out of what happened at the time of his funeral. So that's great.
Okay.
Thank you, Bernard.
And thank you, Les.